Hey, this is Terry Farrell of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I'm here to invite you to join me and the Inglorious Treksperts as we go on the ultimate road trek, visiting the most iconic Star Trek locations ever filmed. We'll share fun facts about scenes that were filmed there, their incredible Hollywood histories. We may even fight a gorn or two along the way. We have many special guests from Star Trek movies and series. You can reserve your copy of this epic new documentary on Blu-ray or DVD, along with a gaggle of intergalactic rewards, such as Ernie, the Pet Vasquez Rock, limited edition collector pins, cool sci-fi swag, autographs, of course, and so much more by going to makethetrek.com and supporting us as we boldly go to the greatest Star Trek locations ever filmed. Go to makethetrek.com and let's see what's out there. Engage.
The Inglorious live tour continues as the Treksperts make their way across this fine country of ours to all kinds of great convention goodness. You can see us next in Ticonderoga as we join Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner, and Clint Howard for some Tranya at the Star Trek tour. Darren?
It's going to be amazing, particularly because it's going to be the first time that Mark Altman visits the Star Trek original series set tour. And I'm going to be there to watch every minute of it.
And me too. Wait. Not a hologram, not an imaginary story, but real, live. You can touch me, but only if you pay extra. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't look at me.
And don't try and steal his coffee.
I can't wait. And of course, Memorial Day weekend will be in Oklahoma City for the inaugural Oklahoma City show from GalaxyCon. In July, Ashley and I will be at San Diego Comic-Con. Well, Darren, tell the folks where you'll be.
I will be in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm going to debut a little something about Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
I would go, but I can't pronounce it.
Right.
And then, of course, in September, in August, we're going to find our way to San Jose as we're reunited, and it feels so good for the inaugural San Jose GalaxyCon. And we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you up there. It's going to be a really fun one.
That's exciting. Is that the right word?
It is
exciting.
It's exactly.
It'll be the only time it takes you guys less time to get to a convention than it does me.
That's true. We could walk there in the time it takes you to get there.
Yeah.
And this fall, Ashley and I will be doing Nightmare Weekend back in Richmond. I know what restaurants we won't be going to. And we bring it on all home at Columbus, Ohio at GalaxyCon. So for more information, go to galaxycon.com, comiccon.org, and StarTrekTour.com. And you can see us at one or all of these amazing conventions. And we can't wait to see you there. Always great to see our listeners join the expedition. So until then, keep on trekking ingloriously, of course, all the way to GalaxyCon, Star Trek Tour, and Comic-Con. This is the 430 movie, and welcome to More Stars Than There Are in Heaven Week, 100 years of MGM. And once again, I'm joined by your favorite 430 movie hosts. On Monday, it's Steve Melching.
Hooray for Hollywood.
On Tuesday, it's Darren R. Doctorman.
And our special guest, Leo the Lion.
Wednesday, you'll be roaring with joy at Ashley Edward Miller.
Meow.
And on Thursday, I'm Mark A. Altman. And as always, Friday, we attempt to come to a consensus to finish off the week with another classic movie. And as always, we'll be curating our own fantasy theme week of films. The theme this week, 100 years of MGM. Now, I want to point out, because even if you, a lot of people make this mistake, including Warner Brothers. MGM movies are not Warner Brothers movies. United Artists movies are not MGM until the mid-'80s.
Are they often Orion movies?
Orion movies are Orion movies, not MGM, until the early 90s. Okay, these are different labels, different studios. Just because they merged in the 80s, then it becomes MGM UA. Then it's okay. Like you could say War Games is eligible because it's an MGM UA movie. From Russia with Love is not because it's a United Artists movie. So, and of course, RoboCop is not because it's Orion Pictures, not MGM, which now controls that library, along with a lot of other libraries as well. It's very complicated.
That's stolen valor we're talking about here.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when Warner Brothers put all these great movies in their 100th tribute montage. It's like there's more MGM movies in there than there are Warner Brothers movies. It's crazy talk. So, but
MGM did do a number of co-productions over the years, so those are eligible, but only if they were co-productions, not if they're acquisitions.
This is very much true. So, Steve, MGM is currently celebrating its centennial. It's had a long and august history, and then, more than pretty much any other studio has gone through with the best of times, the worst of times, and only recently it was purchased by Amazon Studios. We'll see if Amazon can bring back the glory days of MGM. But what an amazing history MGM has. Steve's here to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think MGM might be the greatest of all studios. I don't know. It's had such a long and important history. It was founded on April 17th of 1924, so we just celebrated its 100th anniversary. It was founded by the merging of three silent movie companies, Marcus Lowe's Metro Pictures Corporation, Samuel Goldwyn's Goldwyn Pictures, and Louis B. Mayer's Louis B. Mayer Pictures to form Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios.
A creative title.
Indeed. And as Mark said, their famous slogan was more stars than there are in heaven. That's because the studio, in the studio days, studios had actors and directors under contract for exclusive services on all their films. They would loan their stars out back and forth sometimes if it suited their interests. But I'm just going to read a short list of some of the stars that were part of the MGM stable going back to the 20s, 30s, 40s. They included...
Stable, maybe you want to rephrase that. Let's say maybe family, because stable connotes horses.
Yeah, okay. Which is how they treated them.
Yeah, well, that's not untrue, but...
Well, their contract players, as they were known, included Jimmy Stewart, Elizabeth Taylor, Judy Garland, Shirley Temple, Abbott and Costello, the Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton, Barbara Stanwyck, the Three Stooges, Spencer Tracy, Lana Turner, Esther Williams, Johnny Weissmuller, Van Johnson, Gene Kelly, Grace Kelly, Laurel and Hardy, Janet Leigh, Robert Mitchum, Leslie Nielsen, Gregory Peck, William Powell, Debbie Reynolds, Donna Reed, Mickey Rooney, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Frank Sinatra, Robert Walker, Desi Arnaz, Lucille Ball, George Burns, Gracie Allen, all the Barrymore family, Wallace Beery, James Cagney, Doris Day, Jackie Cooper, Lon Chaney, Gary Cooper, Glenn Ford, Ava Gardner, Greta Garbo, Margaret Hamilton, Katharine Hepburn. So many stars. You would think there weren't any stars left over for the other studios. And of course, they also had in their ranks the legendary producer Irving Thalberg, who we now know as the boy genius, who he was like Richard Daystrom. Only think of as the special award given out at the Oscars every year.
Right.
Louis B. Mayer was sort of the last of the chiefs of MGM, who of the original chiefs, and he died in 1957. The infamous Kurt Kerkorian got control of the company in 1969, and that was sort of the beginning of the end for the studio as he began to dismantle the studio and started a cycle of selling off various assets, including the studio lots and the film libraries and whatnot. And on a truly dark day for our industry, he auctioned off all of the studio's iconic props and costumes in 1970.
And many were put in dumpsters as well.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Why some of that survives, because people went dumpster diving and saved some of the historic pieces.
I think Debbie Reynolds, bought a bunch of it herself.
She did.
And maintained a collection that is it at the Motion Picture Museum now?
I'm not sure.
Or is it in Carrie Fisher's house?
Well, of course, they had a big Debbie Reynolds auction as well after she passed away. So I think it has been spread out to the four winds.
Yeah. So it's unfortunately kind of a shadow of its very much a shadow of its former self. It was truly a great, iconic studio, very powerful, very popular. Their films won tons of awards over the years, and we'll discuss several of the highlights.
Well, it's funny how the mighty have fallen. I recall very clearly in the early aughts going to a pitch with a director who will remain nameless, but he was attached to a pitch that we were doing at Disney to Nina Jacobson before she was summarily fired for the crime, I guess, of having Pirates of the Caribbean released and being a gigantic hit, to save the studio. Anyway, we pitched to Nina. She really liked the pitch, and she goes, this is a really big movie. And she turns to the director and she says, do you think, you can handle this? And he says, well, I think so, because I did blah, blah, blah for MGM. And she said, oh, so you haven't done a studio film?
Oh, God.
Oh, snap.
Ouch.
Wow. Damn. It was quite something. He didn't recover from that. That was a test, and he failed.
Whoa.
So there you go, man.
Yeah.
But, and I worked for MGM.
Yeah, on Age of Cody Banks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I got to recuse myself from that one. But that was I can tell a MGM war story from that too. But it's more fun when Nina Jacobson is just tooling on them. I don't know why. It's what she was great at.
That's hysterical. Amazing history there. There's a wonderful documentary called When the Lion Roars, hosted by none other than Patrick Stewart. And it's a little hyperbolic, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. Of course, it has Stewart coming down a tinsel-covered labyrinth of weird steps, and just hyperbolically extolling Louis B. Mayer, the greatest of the studio moguls, and it's just like, oh my gosh! I mean, he is really. It was kind of like.
MGM is known for grand spectaculars like this, and I've never worked for MGM before, actually.
Never will. But it's so funny, and it's like, obviously, it's a long documentary, and he keeps moving from location to location to these faux Hollywood sets, and it's just delightful seeing Patrick vamp through this whole thing. But there's some great material. It was a while where on a bunch of their Blu-rays and DVDs that you would find as a bonus feature, MGM When the Lion Roars. I think also TCM has shown it a couple of times. So if you have a chance to check it out, it's definitely worth watching. Because all the studios, MGM said, Steve, probably has the most interesting and rich history. It also has the darkest history. Anybody's familiar with the stories, the cover-ups, the way that they used extras and employed, it sent different women literally into the lion's den with their exhibitors and different people and the parties that they threw. And, but it is, and what the lengths they went to protect their talent that was under contract. I mean, some would say that potentially, it went as far as murder, but they certainly covered up murders and suicides and if someone were
drug use,
homosexuality, they're more of, what did they call those marriages? Where they forced their gay
they
actor
call them
and actress.
More stars than there is in the heavens.
But there's actually, there's a dark side. That's just remarkable if you're familiar with the story. But we're not going to dwell on that. We're actually here to celebrate 100 years of the studio. By far, probably one of the great movie lots of all time. Well, now, a fraction of that is the the Sony lot, but most of Culver City was MGM. And there's a great featurette on the Blu-ray for The Big Parade, one of their epic sound films, which has a featurette about the MGM lot. And you see it back in, the 1920s, and it's staggering, the size of the sound stages and the craft bungalows and everything. And of course, the entrance then was off of Culver Boulevard and Washington, off of Washington, which is still there, the old MGM entrance, but it's not used anymore. But I do remember when I was working on a TV show at Sony, just how exciting it was to be on that lot and the few vestiges you can find, because of course, when Coca-Cola bought, when Sony bought Columbia from Coca-Cola Company, Goober and Peters basically made it their sole priority to renovate that lot, which had really fallen into disrepair and put so much money into it. So what is now the Sony lot there's not a ton of history there. Most of the buildings have been rebuilt. But there are places on that lot where you can find the old MGM buildings.
A lot of the sound stages are still intact. The ones that they used for, almost 100 years.
Isn't the main executive building as well? The big executive building where the rainbow is?
I think it was Terra, wasn't it? And,
no, that's the Selznick Studios.
Culver. The Selznick.
Sorry. Yep.
And even Culver has, since Amazon bought that lot, has completely so much of because that had a lot of the old buildings too, which are now gone and been raised and renovated, which was a little disappointing because the last time I was there was a ton of the old buildings. Now, of course, they still have the Thalberg building, the Inns building, the old, which is gorgeous and will always remain there because it's a landmark
and haunted.
It haunted as shit
and haunted, famously haunted, if you believe in that sort of thing. And then also there's some great theaters that are still there. The Selznick Theater at the on the Sony lot, which used to be the MGM lot. So anyway, a lot of history, and a lot of great movies, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Some remarkable MGM films. And of course, they were known for their musicals, but big epics. They were not like a cheap studio, like a Warner Brothers or Paramount. They made big spectacles. That was always a staple of the MGM oeuvre. And so I'm sure a lot of the films you'll see tonight are big epic films and memorable films. And each studio kind of was known at Warner Brothers for the gangster films, Universal for the monster films, but MGM was known for their big musicals and, epic big star-studded screwball comedies and things like that. So, it'll be really interesting. What are you doing?
I'm making big spectacles.
Oh, geez. How is that funny? This is an audio podcast. You're an audio podcast. You're sitting there playing with your glasses.
You've made it funny with your reaction. That's the best part.
I'm so clever. Look at me playing with my spectacles. But meanwhile, it's like you're not even. Nobody knows what you're doing.
It's the silent era.
It's the silent era. But even silent, you see it on screen. It'd be funny.
A ventriloquist on the radio?
That's right.
Yeah.
Beware evildoers wherever you are.
Wow, that's a great Radio Days reference. But of course, that was an Orion movie.
That was an Orion movie.
Not an MGM movie. I'll certify that right now.
Only talking about Metro Pictures here.
Metro Pictures, yep, that's right. God, I read this great book, and I'm trying to remember. People always say, "Oh, thanks for the book recommendations." I read a great book about Eddie Mannix, who was like the fixer at MGM,
right?
And the head of marketing and press over there, and how they covered up all these scandals. It wasn't Hollywood Babylon, which is a little overheated and some of that stuff's exaggerated, but it was a terrific book. I wish I remembered the name. I'll have to find it and mention it on a future show, but it's great. It's great. And
as played by Fred Ward in
The Player.
The Player, yes.
Yeah, and then Eddie Mannix is also, although not based on the real Eddie Mannix, the name the Coen brothers used that in Hail Caesar as well.
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
So let's look till Monday and see what the 5 movies we're going to pick from the hundreds of films, maybe thousands, produced by MGM in the last 100 years, starting with Steve Melching.
Well, for Monday, I'm picking a movie that exemplifies exactly what Mark was talking about. It's it makes me sing. I gotta dance.
Oh, come on! You took my freaking choice.
Nice. It's 1952's "Singing in the Rain."
Of course.
Hey, there's Don Lockwood. Tell us how it all happened from the beginning.
Well, at first we set the stage with a song.
We're ruined. We're all ruined. Talking pictures. Public is screaming for more.
Make a musical.
Musical? Sure. Make a musical.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. The show must go on. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? Laugh, laugh. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. From where I stand, the sun is shining all over the place. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. Dancing and singing in the rain.
Which is my favorite musical. I'm not a huge musical fan, but this one I really love. I've always loved it. I remember the esteemed Professor Drew Casper at USC showing that film in his intro to film class, because it is a great history of film in a musical romantic comedy form. It was directed by Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen, who also directed Charade, Bedazzled, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. It was written by the
Seven Brides. It
was written by the team, Broadway playwright and lyricists Betty Comden and Adolph Green, who I'm sure Mark remembers. We saw them at the Telluride Film Festival.
Yes, I
one
do.
year when they had the restoration of Singing in the Rain at the festival, which was just tremendous. I'd never seen it looking or sounding better. It was produced by the great Arthur Freed, who was in charge of the Freed unit within MGM, who was tasked with producing all their big musicals.
That sounds dirty.
The director of photography was Harold Rawson, who also did The Wizard of Oz, The Asphalt Jungle, The Bad Seed, and many other great films. It stars... What's that?
Oh, Asphalt. My bad.
Asphalt Jungle. It stars Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, Debbie Reynolds, Gene Hagen, Sid Charisse, and Rita Moreno. It was conceived by Arthur Freed as a way to leverage a library of existing catalog song titles, and they hired Comden and Green to write a story that could incorporate these existing songs. They did write one new song for the film, "Make 'Em Laugh," which became a big set piece dance number.
Which is not to be confused with "Be a Clown," which is almost exactly the same song.
Which is, some people suspect they just blatantly ripped off that song for Make 'Em Laugh. That particular number actually was so taxing on Donald O'Connor. He said he couldn't get out of bed for days after filming that. after filming that. And, Gene Kelly also choreographed the dance numbers, and he was particularly hard on Debbie Reynolds, who was not a trained dancer. And she said
Quiet, Ashley.
She said that performing in that film, along with childbirth, were the two hardest things she ever had to do in her, the most difficult things she ever had to do in life, most painful things.
Wow.
So it's just a wonderful story. It's a kind of a love triangle between Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Gene Hagen, set against the transition in the film industry from silent film to sound. It's filled with all this great humor about making that transition, and the set design is so colorful. The dance numbers are just, tremendous. I just love the movie. When it came out in 1952, it was a modest success. I think it was the 10th highest grossing film that year. It didn't get a lot of awards consideration. It was only nominated for 2 Oscars, music score and Gene Hagen supporting actress. It was nominated for a DGA award. It won the WGA award, and it was nominated for Best Picture at the Golden Globes, and Donald O'Connor won the Golden Globe for his performance. But its legacy looms large. It's a wonderful movie. If you don't like musicals, I think it's a musical for people who don't like musicals. It's really wonderful and funny and just great performances.
Well, Steve, it's such a great choice that I would have picked it for Thursday. But you took that small joy in life away from me. And I have to say, much like you, I am not someone who particularly likes musicals. In fact, I kind of loathe musicals. And but boy, do I love Singing in the Rain. It's to say it's a musical for people who don't like musicals. It may be the greatest movie about Hollywood ever made, and that's a pretty high bar because there's some amazing films. The Oscar excluded, of course. But it's charming. It's delightful. It does what all great, musicals and comedies should do, which is no matter how awful mood you're in, you come out of that smiling. And it's just so beautifully made. Stanley Donen directed one of my other favorite movies of all time, Charade. It's marvelous, and everyone's so likable, and it's a special film, and it really encapsulates what made MGM such a great studio.
And kind of almost remade recently as Babylon. Babylon borrowed heavily, I think, from Singing in the Rain.
But that's why we love
not
Babylon.
Enough from Singing in the Rain.
No, that's why one of the reasons we love Babylon. But I have to say this about Steve, and I can't stand him.
I can't stand him.
Well, guess what?
Yes?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, dude.
Wow.
Really? That's a startling admission from Ashley Miller.
Yeah, I have not. Why? Because I loathe musicals. But if you loathe musicals like I loathe musicals, but you love Singing in the Rain, I'll watch Singing in the Rain. God, we need to do the crap I haven't seen but probably should have week. That just needs to be on our list.
Well, we kind of did that. Didn't we do that once? We talked about it.
Yeah.
We watched a movie that we should have seen but hadn't. And I remember I picked Harold and Maude, I think.
That's right. That was when I did Annie Hall.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do that again. That's kind of like Guilty Pleasures, where we could revisit that again, because there are plenty of movies we all should have seen that we haven't seen.
That's right.
Like The Black Hole. No. Right.
I didn't originally like Singing in the Rain when I first saw it.
Where did you see it?
On TV.
You remember? On TV, yeah.
On TV. But I think when I did see it in film school, finally, in a theater, my opinion changed because it was just, glorious looking. And I didn't dislike the songs. I liked the songs in it. And of course, the dancing is impeccable. And I think Donald O'Connor is actually the star of that movie because he is amazing and, relatively unsung these days, which is a shame.
Who I think the star of that movie is? Anne Harriet.
Madge Blake, you mean?
Madge Blake is in it, yeah. I remember as a kid being so excited when she turns up at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm like,
yeah,
oh, my God, it's Anne Harriet.
Yeah.
What's she doing in this movie? Shouldn't she be back at Wayne Manor?
she's diffusing homosexual concerns there as well.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about seeing it for the first time. I saw it in the worst possible circumstances. I saw it in my high school English class on 16 millimeter.
Oh my God,
Jesus!
And so I saw the first hour. I saw the first hour, and then the bell rings, right? And then we came back 2 days later to watch the rest of the film.
Wow!
And I still loved it.
Well, good for you.
I loved it then. I love it now. We saw it in Telluride for one of the many anniversaries, and there's a gorgeous, this is for Ashley, 4K that came out a year or two ago that I highly, highly recommend.
All right. I'll watch it.
And most people don't know that Singing in the Rain, the song itself, was not written for the movie. It was first featured in a previous movie, and it...
A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. Nope, not that far back.
I was trying to think.
Movie.
I saw Clockwork Orange and Singing in the Rain the same semester, and I don't remember which one I saw first.
That's fun.
Those are very different movies.
Yes.
Let's say, which one had rape and murder? Both
Pretty
of
sure
them.
I saw Singing in the Rain
One was
first.
hidden.
Oh.
Wow. That's harsh. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't want to turn to the Academy Museum where we're doing all this bring down about MGM. I want to celebrate and fet the centennial of this studio, because they gave us many laughs, much joy, many tears,
many a laugh and tear,
many monoliths, many
joy
things.
and gratitude.
So that brings us to Tuesday, and Darren Dochterman for his choice.
My Tuesday choice is partially because I could not decide on a choice. There were so many MGM films that I enjoy and celebrate, but I figured that the one movie that celebrates all of these and more, and basically covers 50 years of the 100 years of MGM, is 1974's That's Entertainment.
The stars you're seeing have all returned to MGM, the studio that invented the movie musical. They were a part of an era of entertainment unlike any other the world has ever known.
Let me tell you, for a little girl with a wild imagination, this place was heaven.
I have never seen They're all here for one reason, to join their talents for the first and only time in one motion picture. They've come together in a kind of labor of love. It will never happen again. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of the most magnificent movie musicals in all of Hollywood's history, proudly presents the greatest musical of them all. That's entertainment. With special appearances by Elizabeth Taylor, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, James Stewart, Debbie Reynolds, Mickey Rooney, Bing Crosby, Liza Minnelli, Donald O'Connor, Peter Lawford, Frank Sinatra, with Judy Garland, Jane Powell, Clark Gable, Katherine Grayson, Jean Harlow, Joan Crawford. That's entertainment. It's more than a movie, it's a celebration.
Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, we're happy again.
You can wait around and hope, but I'll tell you, you'll never see the likes of this again.
That's entertainment.
It features clips from pretty much every movie that MGM made between the 20s and the 70s. It was directed and written by the son of the Tin Woodsman, Jack Haley Jr. This is definitely the Hollywood, the next generation, because it features an amazing look at the existing MGM backlot in 1974 that had almost been decimated by the sale and neglect. And you see Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and Peter Lawford walking through basically an Armageddon of backlot, which is
like the Omega Man.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch And it really sort of freezes this time period in between the studio system and the 70s. Very sort of disturbing a bit, because it shows the decline of this giant that you're celebrating. And it's absolutely wonderful, though. You can see it. There's a great Blu-ray available of That's Entertainment 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 are really good. 3 is okay. But the film just absolutely celebrates all these phases of MGM's life, from the early films to the big lavish musicals that Steve mentioned before, and on to Esther Williams' swimming spectaculars, and all sorts of very odd movies that you wouldn't think would do well. But this is back in a time when movies were made to entertain a whole bunch of people that we don't even think about anymore. And it's really crazy, the various types of movies that they churned out in this factory. And it's really amazing. It's great to see the wonderful clips that they put together. And there's one section that, when Steve was mentioning all the stars that MGM had under contract, there's this one section of the film where they filmed a celebratory lunch that they gathered all their contract stars. And you're basically watching the camera pan down lines of movie stars, and you see all of them sitting down together in this luncheon, which is truly amazing that they got everybody together for this. I think it happened in maybe the early 60s or late 50s.
Was this the Night of the 100 Stars, or was that CBS?
No, I think
the Night of 100 Stars was something different.
I think that was something different. This was it's included in That's Entertainment, and it's really fascinating to watch all these people that you've seen, and especially if you've been exposed to these older movies, you recognize them. But just truly, at that point, MGM was the leader of this industry, and truly a massive fall that is documented in this movie, from beginning to end. And it's really a fascinating journey that you go on. And of course, Mickey Rooney is there. I was the biggest star in Hollywood, but you see
he was.
He totally was. And you see him in his younger days, in the Andy Hardy movies and in the Let's Put on a Show movies with Judy Garland, that he was like the equivalent of Michael J. Fox. He would have been great in the 1950s Back to the Future.
Wow. Darren, I got to say, I was so sure you were picking a different movie. I will say from 1968.
Yeah, no, I didn't pick that one because I picked it twice before.
Yeah, I know it's funny. I thought that I was wondering if you would go there again because you have gone there so many times. This is such a perfect pick, I have to say, because it encapsulates everything about MGM. And these were huge. People don't realize. I mean, they say, "Oh, a clip movie." Now you get that on YouTube, right? But back in the 70s, when this came out, this was a huge film.
Yeah,
like people ran to see this. That's why there are three of them. The third one didn't do well, but the first one and the second one were huge hits. And it really was an overview of the studio. And like, what studio could you do a movie which is basically a love letter to the films of that studio? Because these scenes hold up, out of context. Yeah. And they had such huge stars. It's really a great pick for this week. And
that's also part of the reason how these movies were put together. They were very modular. And they had sequences in them that were sometimes directed by different directors, but you could pull them out and watch them separately and not need any setup for them.
Yeah,
they were
like
equally as entenning.
Movies.
Yeah.
And this came out in a time, before home video, and that was the only way to see, some of these movies would turn up on television, but it was the only way to see this stuff.
But the amazing job of collating all these clips from the previous movies had to have been a tremendous effort, and the ability to sort of edit them into a cohesive unit that the movie is, it's just absolutely spectacular.
So Darren very cleverly managed to pick all of the MGM movies for Tuesday.
It's funny because
it's almost we do Thursday and
100 years of Universal. I'm picking Terror in the Aisles.
Oh my God, yeah.
Remember that compilation film? Not nearly as good as That's Entertainment. I have to say before we go to Wednesday, and maybe I'm just, delaying the inevitable, but earlier on I said that there was this great book that I wanted to recommend, but I couldn't remember. Then I suddenly had an epiphany that there's a thing called the internet. And I'm like, I'll go search for it. So I found it. So this is the book about MGM that I really recommend. I had a great time reading it. It's called The Fixers. Eddie Mannix, Howard Strickland, he was the head of publicity there, and the MGM publicity machine. And it says, Mannix and Strickland are virtually unknown outside of Hollywood and little remembered even there. But as general manager and head of publicity for MGM, they lorded over all the stars in Hollywood's golden age from the 1920s to the 40s, including legends like Garbo, Dietrich, Gable, and Garland. When MGM stars found themselves in trouble, it was Eddie and Howard who took care of them, solved their problems, hid their crimes, and kept their secrets. They were the fixers. And this book, it was riveting. I found it absolutely riveting. So,
Strickland was the guy who used to go around calling people slackers. Oh, that's a different one.
Oh, I see. You're from Back to the Future. Yeah, James Tolkien's character.
Did that guy ever have hair?
Yeah, I guess not.
Okay. Anyway, I highly recommend the book for people who are interested in this. But now that brings us to Wednesday. And it's curious, where is Ashley going to go? We don't know. But we're going to find out. So without any further ado, Mr. Ashley Edward Miller.
I'm very excited for Wednesday this week. Let me just tell you. So my pick for Wednesday, man, it checked a lot of boxes for MGM. At a time when they desperately needed a box office hit, gave them a box office hit. It gave them an Academy Award. It gave them Grammy Awards. It spawned a sequel. It spawned remakes. Even now, it's left a cultural footprint. And I think the best way to introduce this film is to have a little pop quiz of all my favorite 4:30 movie panelists. Now, I want you to raise your hand when you know the answer. Okay, so here's the first question. Who is the black private dick who is a sex machine with all the chicks? Mark Altman.
Shaft.
I'm talking about Shaft.
Damn right.
Up yours! Get out of the way!
Cat say he gonna be here, he should be here. Open it up.
Shaft's his name. Shaft's his game.
Cat say he gonna be here, and he ain't. It ain't right. Oh. Wait. That's some cold shit. Throwing my man Leroy out the window. Just picked my man up and threw him out the goddamn window. Listen, Snow White. Me and you gonna tangle sooner or later.
Why don't you stop playing with yourself, Willie? You ain't gonna do shit.
Shaft's his name. Shaft's his game.
Hey, man, I don't know no Ben Buford.
20.
Oh, that Ben Buford.
We're gonna take it out of your ass, pimp.
I'm looking for a nigga named John Shaft.
Just found him. Wow.
The mob wanted Harlem back. They got Shaft up to here.
All I'm asking you is to let me know what's going on. No names, no places, just what?
Okay, Tom, used up your minute. Get out.
Don't tell me, man.
Where the gun? None here. I'll be goddamn. Yeah. Come on, in front of me.
You want to play your super heavy black number? I'm going to play mine. We can nail your tail for manslaughter on what we got on you right now.
Right on.
What is it? When you lead that revolution, why they better be standing still? But you don't run with a down no more. We're done running, man.
Shaft. Hotter than Bond, cooler than Bullet. Rated R. If you want to see Shaft, ask your mama.
Shaft.
What's the next question?
1971 blaxploitation opus starring Richard Roundtree and, weirdly enough, Doogie Howser's dad. John Shaft is a private
John
dick.
Shaft.
Yeah, the question. John Shaft is a private dick or detective. Back in the 70s, dick doesn't mean what it does now. Well, maybe it did, but he was still okay.
Look,
anyway,
he's a constipated man, but no one understands him like his woman.
You misheard the lyrics, I think, John Shaft. He gets hired to find the kidnapped daughter of a Harlem crime boss, and he has to navigate, the Italians, the black crime families. He has to deal with the cops and everything, and just basically be a badass. It was so successful that it essentially spawned a genre that, the studios and everybody were chasing forever, the blaxploitation genre. And nobody quite, hit the highs of Shaft. And it was lampooned, in various and sundry ways, like, I'm going to get you, sucker, which was, years later was
Live and Let Die.
Yeah, Live and Let Die was actually like a response to Shaft. I mean, because it was just that successful. And you know what? The movie's really good.
Because who's the private secret agent that's a sex machine?
James Bond. Just talking about Bond. But it's a legitimately really entertaining film. There's a reason why it was that successful. Isaac Hayes, you may know as Chef on South Park, recorded the main title. It won 2 Grammys for Best Original Score and Soundtrack. It won an Academy Award for Best Original Song. It's a delight, man. And you know what? It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just a cool story with a cool guy at the heart of it. And it was 1971. I mean, think about that for a second, by the way. It's 1971. This movie is enormous. We are only, 3 years removed, right? From everything changing, right? Like, and suddenly, America just embraces this African-American action hero. And who better than Richard Roundtree, who is so charismatic in this role? He's awesome. He is just eminently watchable. And I think he's the real reason why that movie was as successful as it was. I mean, it was a solidly made movie. It had a really good, straightforward, straight ahead story. But Richard Roundtree is just charisma walking, and you fully understand, why he is the black private dick who is a sex machine to all the chicks. I mean, he would risk his neck for his brother man. He won't cop out when there's danger all about. You know what? He's a bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
Just talking about Shaft.
He's no Truck Turner, let me tell you.
I love this pick. Blaxploitation was kind of in the air leading up to this. I think Sweet Sweetback's badass song had come out earlier that year, but Shaft is the one that sealed the deal, I think, and spawned just so many films in that genre, including, films like Superfly and Blackula.
Foxy Brown.
Cleopatra Jones, Black Mama, White Mama.
Superfly. You will believe a fly will man.
Blackula.
Yeah, just so many films. And that theme song, I mean, it's such a great earworm. It's a terrific song.
Is that or Eye of the Tiger more of an earworm? It's a toss-up.
No, that is.
It's definitely Shaft.
I prefer Shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden we're doing like a Flash Gordon. It's like Shaft.
It's going into
Savior of
Los Angeles.
Savior of Los Angeles. Shaft.
Wow, that's actually you've redeemed yourself this week. That's a great pick.
Thank you.
It's very you, and yet it's a great pick.
Thank you.
So good for you. Good for you.
Good at this job again.
After 7 seasons,
Let's not go that far.
Oh my.
And who doesn't love the poster? I love the one sheet for Shaft with Richard Roundtree with the rope and the gun and everything. It's just badass.
Yep.
It is. Well, that brings us to Thursday. Shaft. And I have to say, I had this week completely wrong. I thought Steve was going to pick The Wizard of Oz, and then I thought Darren was going to pick 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I had no idea what Ashley was going to pick, and I didn't care. But because I just knew I couldn't predict what that twisted mind would come up with. But I knew I'd be safe for Singing in the Rain, which apparently could not be further from the truth. Maybe, so anyway. So, I've been thinking about what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And of course, we all know I love Ernst Lubitsch, Ninotchka, Garbo Laughs, one of my favorite comedies. But I'm not going to go with that. Okay. Now, on Movies We Are Thankful For, one of the most meaningful films that probably led to me becoming a film and TV writer, producer, more so than Star Wars, more so than Star Trek, is North by Northwest, the Hitchcock film, which was a pivotal film in my young life. And I love it. I adore it. It's coming out on 4K. I am over the moon. I cannot wait because that VistaVision transfer has got to be gorgeous. So I cannot wait. But but then I'm like, okay, so how about now this crosses the line because it was a movie produced by MGM, but released by UA. And I was going to go with Network, and then I realized I picked it before. So, because I remember us talking about Ned Beatty and how great he is in that scene. So,
I have my guess locked in. So,
do you? Okay. Well, I got the answer. Are you ready? I got a lot of ellipses for you, Steve. Train them, excite them, arm them, and turn them loose.
Nice.
On the Nazis.
Well done.
Well done, Steve. I'm glad to see I finally become predictable. The Dirty Dozen.
Great tagline. I love that tagline.
Major Reisman, you are ordered by Allied Command to select 12 general prisoners convicted by courts-martial and sentenced to be executed or serve lengthy prison terms for murder, rape, robbery, and other crimes of violence. And you will deliver them secretly behind enemy lines in France to undertake a mission of sabotage that could change the course of the war. The 12 men will be known as the Dirty Dozen.
Lee Marvin as Major John Reisman.
There's a little of Major Reisman in every man, says Marvin. Tough and unyielding, yet compassionate. I think it's the best role I've ever been asked to play.
You've all volunteered for a mission which gives you just 3 ways to go. Either you can foul up in training and be shipped back here for immediate execution of sentence, or you can foul up in combat, in which case I will personally blow your brains out, or you can do as you're told, in which case you might just get by.
Now you hold it right there. This war was not started for your private gratification, and you can be damn sure that this army isn't being run for your personal convenience either. Ernest Borgnine as General Warden.
I'm tired of seeing generals portrayed as desk-bound pen pushers, says Borgnine. So I've played Warden as a rough professional soldier.
Robert Ryan as Colonel Everett Dasher Breed.
There were officers like Breed, says Ryan, who could never suffer the rules broken or even bend a little.
Major Reisman's compliments, sir. You prefer to be captured or destroyed?
Jimmy Brown as Napoleon Jefferson. Jefferson is any man fighting for recognition against the odds, says Brown. I think I understand him pretty well.
The hell is...
John Cassavetes as Victor Franco, says Cassavetes. Franco is a petty hoodlum forced to heroism by circumstances beyond his control.
We go on that mission, we all get killed. That's what they want. That's what they want.
Trini Lopez as Jimenez. He's crawling with hate. Charles Bronson as Vladislav. The last guy in the world you'd expect to be a hero. Telly Savalas as Archer Maggot. Maggot is a maniac, says Savalas. His religious fanaticism can never be moderated or quelled. It is a constant danger. Clint Walker as Samson Posey, an Indian with war paint smeared on his soul. Train them. Excite them. Arm them. And turn them loose on the Nazi High Command.
Well, and that poster, I have that poster. Yes. I don't know why it's not hanging in my office, but it was hanging in my office. Now it's in my garage. I need to get that out.
Mark is now going to demonstrate for us a cold water shave.
I love that freaking movie so much.
It's great.
You know, Rick Dalton was almost in it.
No, that was Great Escape.
That was Great Escape.
Oh, you're right. Oh my God.
Which is United Artists.
Yeah.
Not MGM. But you're not wrong. I'm sure he probably auditioned.
He probably auditioned for it.
He just didn't make it as far.
I bet Cliff Booth was probably a stuntman in it.
I think he's too clean cut to have been one of the Dirty Dozen.
Totally. Yeah. He's not dirty enough.
Yeah.
Cassavetes and Telly Savalas.
Even the Clean Dozen.
Lee Marvin would eat him alive. Could you imagine Lee Marvin, who was like in World War II, putting up with Rick Dalton's bullshit?
Never.
The guy who cried over having to do Italian movies.
That is a good idea, though. A sequel called The Clean Dozen.
Yeah, Clean Dozen. That's right. Their hygiene is very important to them, even when they're turned loose on the Nazis.
The hygienic dozen.
That would be the version of the Dirty Dozen made with Gen Z.
Yeah,
well, we need our fluoride-free, toothpaste and our gluten-free sandwiches, and then we, when you drop us into Germany, we need to be very dainty. We don't want to fall on the trees.
Filled with hand sanitizer.
No body hair at all.
Oh,
when they shoot the Nazis and the gun goes flying, they got to put the sanitizer on their hands before they pick up the dirty gun.
Could
you imagine the rope? Remember the scene? Could you imagine you put a bunch of Gen Zs with Lee Marvin? He ate the convicts alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's so much Gen Z as the millennials. Gen Z maybe has it together a little more. But
we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Are we supposed to eat with Gen Zs?
But okay, it's time. The Muppets Dirty Dozen.
Oh, God.
So Lee Marvin as himself.
Yes.
And then the Dirty Dozen is all Muppets.
Yeah.
Right.
And
of course, Cassavetes is Kermit the Frog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Who's Telly Savalas?
Bunsen Honeydew.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. Yeah, and who's Ernest Borgnine? Robert Ryan, who we all hate. That could be Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah, Robert Ryan and Ernest Borgnine are Statler and Waldorf.
Oh, I was going to say, doesn't Fozzie have to be Ernest Borgnine or no?
No,
he could be.
He could.
Well, you know who Fozzie would be?
Fozzie is George Kennedy.
Ah, yes.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You're good. That's good. Who's Jim Brown?
He's an actor.
He's an actor. No, our actor is Lee Marvin.
Oh
God, could you see Lee Marvin? It'd be like that Larry David when he attacked the Elmo on national television, and Will Wheaton got really upset about it.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Well, we just go back to eating a soy burger and let everybody watch Larry David.
Wow.
Man, we're just mean-spirited today. We got to stop.
We are. We're the worst.
We got to stop because this is such a great week. What great movies.
And The Dirty Dozen is just one of the best, I don't know. I was going to say it's one of the best World War II movies. I mean, it's not really. It's not a World War II movie. It's an adventure movie that takes place in World War II. It's
right.
Totally. It's set against the backdrop of World War II. Yeah. And paved the way for such great television as Gun on Ice Planet Zero. We recruited them on the prison barge. They're the only ones who can destroy the Ravachol pulsar.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, I love The Dirty Dozen so much, and it's great. I know a lot of people would probably say, "Oh, well, why don't you say Where Eagles Dare?" Where Eagles Dare is great, but it's not as much fun as The Dirty Dozen.
Dirty Dozen is far more cartoony, and I love it for that.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Plus, I think they kill more Nazis, so the more Nazis you kill, the better.
They do, and they put them in that wine cellar and they pull the plug.
Yep, exactly. Can never kill enough Nazis. That's the key.
It is brutal. But speaking of Nazis, has anyone seen the Ministry of Ungentlemanly?
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
You're right.
Yeah, I liked it. Did you see it, Steve?
I'm trying to see it this week.
Yeah,
you should see it before it leaves the theaters.
I already tried.
It's really fun.
Well, I was going to go over the weekend with a friend, but then he couldn't go, so I'm waiting.
A friend.
It's kind of a spaghetti western meets The Dirty Dozen. It's not as good, but it's really entertaining.
Yeah,
it's the Dirty Spaghetti Dozen.
It's a frothy guy.
The SpaghettiOs Dozen. Yeah.
The SpaghettiOs Dozen. That's funny.
But this is interesting to see the way we started the week with the fun and of Singing in the Rain. The true Hollywood type movie. Then that's entertainment, tribute to musicals and the history of the and then we move into the gritty 70s with the Shaft, and it's interesting because you wouldn't expect MGM to be a pioneer in the blaxploitation world, but it was.
And that's why it's Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And then Dirty Dozen, which was a hard edge 60s movie. Another movie I could easily pick that I love almost as much as The Magnificent Seven, of course, which I love, which is a fabulous Western. I didn't pick it because I wanted to pick The Dirty Dozen, but Magnificent Seven could have easily qualified.
The Magnificent Seven Ambersons.
Or Magnificent Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
I stand corrected. I think Magnificent Seven was UA. I think
you're right.
Yeah.
It was UA. So I could have picked it. That would have been wrong. And then... you know what I could have picked, but I picked it too recently, was The Hunger.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And you
not to watch
it at the wrong time.
Yeah. Movies you shouldn't pick on 4:30. Yeah, right. MGM movies not to watch anymore. So anyway, my pick is The Dirty Dozen.
That's a great pick.
Yeah,
that's a great pick.
So far, this is a great week. Let's see if we can screw it up.
No, we can't because we got to go with one of the big ones.
I gotta throw in my idea for Friday, and pick the movie that basically demarked the end of the studio system for sci-fi, and that is Logan's Run.
Oh,
ooh, not where I thought you were going.
Movie I thought you were going to go for.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, me too.
No, because that was sort of the beginning of sci-fi.
The beginning of big budget, not B movies. Yeah, absolutely. But I thought before you went on your little, thing that you were going to say Forbidden Planet, because I know how much you love Forbidden Planet.
I do, and how much Gene Roddenberry did, but never admitted it.
So much, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, I like both of those picks. I was going to throw out Forbidden Planet, but I love Logan's Run. I mean, it's...
Well, I have to say, in a world in which Gone with the Wind and Ben-Hur exist, you can't pick Logan's Run for Friday.
Sure you can.
It's fair.
Come on.
Well, Gone with the Wind, I mean, I didn't see Gone with the Wind until I had an opportunity to see it in a theater on a big screen. I think they did a re-release Probably the 60th anniversary or 65th anniversary, something like that. And
well, they did one a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
They had the 80th. I think the 80th was because Naomi and Isaac went. I was out of town, but they went, and they couldn't. I mean, Naomi seen it and liked it, but Isaac couldn't believe how much he liked it.
I think it might have been 85th because it came out in 1939.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Here's the best argument for Gone with the Wind, other than it's Gone with the Wind. It's one of the biggest movies of all time, and I think it's iconic in terms of the
to be.
But here's the argument for it. The argument is that it is one of those movies that triggers people who have probably never seen it.
Right.
And that we would say, oh, you couldn't make that movie day. And not just because when you write the most expensive 2 words in the history of screenwriting, Atlanta Burns, you've got to actually depict that. But because it's the kind of vegetables that people should eat. That's just my thinking. I mean, look.
My feeling on it is that it was only released by MGM. It was produced by Selznick International.
This is true, but it's so associated with MGM, legitimately.
But again, only distributed. And it's a technicality, but if we're saying that UA can't be picked, then I think that this can't be either.
No, but I'm not sure I agree with that. I understand where you're coming from. I don't totally disagree. I just half-heartedly disagree.
And David Selznick was married to Louis B. Mayer's daughter.
It was all in the family.
So it was all in the family, yeah. But I when I saw Gone with the Wind, I gotta say, I really liked the first half of it, but after the intermission, I don't know. I find it really dull after the intermission.
Right, because you think that movie should be under 90 minutes. No, I'm kidding. That's right. Isn't that all these thought pieces on the internet now? Movies are too long. It's like, shut up. Movies are too long. Give me a break.
Books cost too much.
Long. Bad movies are too long. Good movies aren't long enough.
Yeah, that's right.
As they say. Well, I mean, part of the problem is we got to watch fucking half hour, 45 minutes of commercials and trailers before the movie starts.
That doesn't help.
That's
my God, before the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, I mean, I think we literally saw 12 trailers. And, they don't really pair wine and fish anymore. They just dump a bunch of trailers on you regardless of whether or not. So you're watching all these awful movies that you'd never see in a million years and just shaking your head like, who makes this crap? And you got to suffer through all these trailers. And then maybe you get 1 or 2 trailers for something interesting.
That's one of the great virtues of the whole thing now, where there are just, reissues and revivals, or theaters just showing things from the back catalog. Because when they show those movies, you just go in, you sit down, and the movie starts.
Yeah, unfortunately, that film is The Phantom Menace, so I'd rather watch the trailers.
It is. Number 2 at the box office this week.
I know. Good for them.
You know what? It's been number 2 for a very long time.
Ashley, woo! Also, we talk about one of the legends of MGM, but one of the more recent successes for the studio, it's not that recent anymore, but once they were acquired and went back into making films in the 90s, was Get Shorty.
Yeah, that was actually nearly my Wednesday pick.
Oh, interesting.
But Shaft was weirder.
Well, the other idea for Friday is, of course, Gene Roddenberry's Pretty Maids on the Row.
Oh, tell us about that, Darren.
It's awful, but it's awful in a wonderful way. I actually just watched it yesterday.
Really? Why? Yeah. Tell us why.
Because I think I was listening to your audiobook of the 50-year mission and heard tell about it. And I said, you know what? I haven't seen this in ages. I wonder if I can just go to the old Voodoo and rent it. And I did. And wow, it is a whitesploitation movie, is what it is.
It is.
And Rock Hudson plays a high school counselor, assistant principal, with a difference. He has the full-on porn stash, and he is doing all of the cheerleaders at the school. And apparently there's not a big problem with that with the local constabulary.
Gene was an excellent sci-fi writer.
Yes, that's
Rock
right.
Hudson doing all the cheerleaders, yeah.
And Roddy McDowell is the principal, and of course Jimmy Doohan and William Campbell are two local police, and the main police investigator is Telly Savalas. Before his Kojak.
You may know him as Maggot from Dirty Dozen.
That's right. It is amazing. I mean, the pretty maids themselves are played by wonderfully talented and lovely women, including Joanna Cameron, who later became Isis. And it is
she did.
It is modestly lewd. It's not really. It sounds more dirty than it is. And
it plays more dirty than it is.
Yeah.
There's something about it that's
naughty.
so lascivious.
It's not.
But it's just, it's because you know what's going on in the heads of the people making it.
Yeah.
Remember, the director is Roger Vadim, who did God Created Women, and the writer-producer is Gene Roddenberry, who created the William Ware Tice wardrobe of Star Trek. I think...
let's not forget Angie Dickinson. Angie Dickinson, who plays a substitute teacher. Why she needed to be a substitute teacher, I don't know. But she basically...
The Van Halen video.
She basically seduces a high school boy. And it's really weird, man. It's really weird. But it has this sort of, early 70s feel to it. It feels like you're watching a porno, but there's no porno in it.
It's funny. I almost picked that for Guilty Pleasures Week until I realized that it gives me no pleasure.
It's not a pleasure.
It's not enjoyable. I just watch it because I can't believe that anybody made it.
It's a guilty curiosity is what it is.
That's such a great way to describe it, Darren.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, and you're a Star Trek or Gene Roddenberry fan, you really should watch it because you'll be amused. It's much more watchable than, say, Earth 2. And
if this had been a pilot, I would have watched this TV series.
It's just crazy. I mean, it's just everyone is so miscast and wrong, and then there are all these Star Trek actor cameos, and man, it's such an interesting observation. We can't possibly make that. Although, Quentin Tarantino famously, when he said his 10 favorite movies of all time, number 10 was Pretty Maids All in a Row.
Well, that kind of tells you more about Quentin than it does about the movie.
Yeah, I have to say, I just don't see how we make it Pretty Maids All in a Row in a world in which North by Northwest and Ben-Hur, Fish Called Wanda,
there's
Network,
so many other. I mean,
Lolita,
Freaks, The Thin Man, Wizard of Oz. We mentioned my favorite Lubitsch movie, Shop Around the Corner, Philadelphia Story, Gaslight, Force of
Philadelphia
Evil.
Story. Let me just stop you for a second. Philadelphia Story is another one of those movies that has been co-opted by Warner Brothers because it was part of the Turner sale where they acquired all these Warner Brothers titles. It is not a Warner Brothers film. It is an MGM film, and a great MGM film with Kate Hepburn, Jimmy Stewart, and Cary Grant. Highly recommended.
And there's another great noir film that I saw at USC called Force of Evil, written and directed by Aaron Polanski. With John Garfield's terrific. An American in Paris, another Gene Kelly movie.
Sure.
But
that's a real musical.
Magnum Force of Evil.
The Bad and the Beautiful. I think we've discussed that before.
We have during
great Hollywood history.
But it's worth stopping to talk about that because that was on Films About Filmmaking Week. I don't know if we picked it, but Kirk Douglas plays the film producer Jonathan Shields, and it's a triptych of 3 different stories of people he's wronged in the business and how you see the same people on the way down that you see on the way up. Right. And it's a terrific black and white film from MGM with a great cast. And Walter Pidgeon from Forbidden Planet is the studio.
Among other things, yes.
Yeah. And worries about seeing all this stuff. But anyway, terrific film, really great film. If you haven't seen Bad and the Beautiful, you should definitely check it out. It's on TCM every 3 days.
I mean, if we hadn't picked it, or if I personally hadn't picked it a couple times before, I think that The Wizard of Oz is the absolute pinnacle of MGM craftsmanship.
I think we should pick it again.
Because
I think we should.
When you say 100 years of MGM, how can you not pick Wizard of Oz? That's the first thing you think of when you hear MGM is the Wizard of Oz. Yep. And it's another one of those movies some people haven't seen. And if they haven't, if one person watches it because they heard us talk about it, I mean, it's such a special film.
And, if you want to get another perspective on it, if you've already seen it, visit my Renegade Commentary site and listen to my commentary on Wizard of Oz.
There you go.
When we were growing up, The Wizard of Oz was already an old movie that we watched, I think on Thanksgiving night after Thanksgiving dinner, it was on television. And it was terrific. But it was, it was mostly in color, but it was, it was an old movie. And now it's like a really old movie for young audiences. So I can understand maybe people haven't seen it. But the ways you can watch it are absolutely pristine now. Well, my point is, it feels like it's an ancient movie from, the antediluvian past, but it is. It's so good. It holds up remarkably. I just watched
also another great musical with catchy songs.
Absolutely.
A musical I don't loathe.
There's also Dr. Zhivago. And, how can we skip over, a world that includes Clash of the Titans?
I know. Also nearly Wednesday.
I could skip over Clash of the Titans.
The way we can do it is by stop motion.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised Mark didn't bring up Diner.
Well, that's true. I didn't bring up Diner, nor did I bring up My Favorite Year, which are two wonderful MGM movies.
Right. Your favorite year is 1982, right?
Both of them are.
Yes.
Diner and My Favorite Year. Both featured in my documentary, Greatest Geek Year Ever, 1982.
My Favorite Diner.
Along with Poltergeist, another MGM movie from 1982.
That's right.
Fantastic. Yep. We didn't even mention that. And of course, I would say one other thing, Steve. If I were a rich man, a yaddle deedle 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 dum. All day long, I'd watch this movie.
Bitty boom.
I'd bitty boom.
Bada beep,
bada bing, bada boom. Fiddler on the Roof.
I've never seen that one. That's my admission.
It's not great. The play is much better than the movie.
The play is much better than the movie.
Yes. The play is much better than the movie. The movie's a little too... It's made by a guy named Norman Jewison, who's not even a Jew.
Right.
You needed a Jew to make that.
Nor is he the son of a Jew.
Yeah.
He's the son of a Jew. So, and maybe if these kids watch more Jewish films, they wouldn't be such assholes.
There's another one I just watched last week I'd never seen. The Mutiny on the Bounty, the Marlon Brando version.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's a great pick. That's a great pick. That's a great pick. I'm still very partial to North by Northwest, but I think The Wizard of Oz is the way to go.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I feel the same. I love North by Northwest. It's probably my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie, but Wizard of Oz is just...
Yeah. Also, I want to mention, we have mentioned before we make a final decision, I want to mention our good friend Dean Devlin, his breakthrough movie, Stargate. Was a terrific MGM movie.
Yeah, of course.
Right when the studio had been trying to get back on their feet. It was a big success for them, and it spawned a hugely successful TV series. But Stargate's an immensely entertaining sci-fi epic made at a price.
Yeah. And I think one of their MGM's last solo produced films was Legally Blonde, which was a big success and sponsored sequels.
And of course, you sort of mentioned it, but I do have to, mention Agent Cody Banks, which
you already mentioned it. You only get to mention it once.
So there you go. So I don't know. I just make franchises. That's all I do.
Ashley created the X-Men. You might have heard of it.
That's right. In a time
but that was
machine.
a Fox film. We'll save that for 100 years of Fox. Hungry like the Fox.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
What did the
100
Fox
years
make?
of giving a Fox week. What does the Fox say week?
Oh my God! Where did
you
that?
never fucking ask Bell in the... No.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, it would be a great choice for that. But we'll get there. When is Fox celebrating its 100th anniversary?
But we should have Steve as a special guest that week.
I don't know. I don't know if he can. It's like choosing between all your children. Who's your favorite?
That's true.
I don't think he can really do that.
He says they stole their children.
But maybe he can do an introduction to the episode. Maybe we do a little mini interview about the history of Fox, and then we go into our episode where we talk about Planet of the Apes and everything.
Yeah.
20th Century Fox wasn't founded until 1935.
Okay,
so we got a while.
Season 9.
Couple more seasons.
We have 11 years.
1935.
11 years.
Okay, maybe we should pick it now. Laura's my pick. Anyone else? Darren, Planet of the Apes?
Unfortunately, Fox is no longer in existence.
Well, it is. It's a label.
No, it's not. It's 20th Century Studios.
Yeah, okay, it's 20th Century Studios, but it's Fox. It's 20th Century Fox.
We know what it means. We know what it is.
We know what it
fools.
means. You can't fool us. You can change the name, but you can't change its place in our hearts. Exactly.
Well, I think we got a week here.
We do have a week. We got a week.
So are we all agreed that
a week? It's a week.
That it's going to be Wizard of Oz for Friday?
Well, I think
I think so, because there's no place like Friday.
Many, many miles east of nowhere lies the amazing land of Oz, a magnificent empire created in the mind of a man who wrote a great book about it. Like wildfire in the wheat field, the fabulous tale of the Wizard of Oz spread from town to city to nation to the entire world. Although the Wizard of Oz has captivated the children of 4 generations and fired the imaginations of those youthful adults who have never grown old, although 10 million copies of the book have reached eager hands and eager hearts, no one has dared the towering task of giving life and reality to the land of Oz and its people. Every delightful character of L. Frank Baum's classic is now reborn. Every glorious adventure has been recaptured and painted with a rainbow. The celebration in Munchkinland, the flying monkeys, the rescue of Dorothy, the castle of the witch, the palace of Oz, and Dorothy's strange journey to the Emerald City to find the wonderful Wizard of Oz himself.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We hear he is the Wizard of Wiz, if ever a Wiz there was. If ever a Wiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Not Return to Oz, because that was not MGM.
No.
That was, no, I was going to say it's not even a movie, but I actually like that movie.
I like that movie a lot.
Yeah. I like Walter Murch did a good job. So, because it was an impossible task. And he did a great job. Okay. So just to remind our audience what the picks were for this week, in case you want to follow along at home. Steve, what was our pick for Monday?
Monday, it's What a Glorious Feeling. It's Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and Debbie Reynolds in Singin' in the Rain.
And Gene Hagen.
And
who plays RJ? He's so great. I forget who that actor is. He's so great. There's so many great character actors in that movie.
RJ Maroon.
I could go on. Yeah, RJ Maroon, right. Okay. And then on Tuesday, Darren Dochterman.
That's entertainment.
We should do it. That's Entertainment 430 movie, which just clips from previous episodes. Like Shades of Grey or something. Wednesday, it's Ashley Edward Miller.
On Wednesday, Richard Roundtree plays a complicated man who is misunderstood by everyone except for his woman. I'm talking about Shaft.
On Thursday, train them, arm them, and turn them loose on the Nazis. It's the Dirty Dozen. And on Friday, take a balloon trip over the rainbow to the Wizard of Oz. Wow. Okay. Another great week here on the 430 movie, isn't it?
I would watch it.
It is. I mean, even those of us who don't have ruby slippers.
That's right.
There's no place like home, Darren.
I know. That's why we're home right now.
Because we're going to be traveling, Darren, Steve, and I, next couple of weeks. So we're going to be doing some convention appearances. What?
I know.
Now it's just come home.
Darren, Steve, and I.
Darren,
unfortunately,
Darren, and I.
Steve isn't going with us on this one.
No.
Later, perhaps.
Yeah. But you can join us at the Trek Ticonderoga and then later in Oklahoma City at GalaxyCon. Check GalaxyCon.com for details. But we will not be clicking our ruby slippers. We're going to be flying. Hopefully there'll be no tornadoes, but there could be a twister. A twister
is a tornado, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know.
It's Tornado Week on the 4:30 movie.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Let's do great tornado movies. Yeah, exactly.
It's Weather Week. Bad Weather Week.
That's actually not a bad idea.
It isn't.
Inclement weather.
It's Whether or Not on the 4:30 movie.
Wow.
Yeah, the day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh my.
No, not so much. Okay.
No.
We'll consider it. So if you're a fan of Inclement Weather Week, let us know on the Discord channel. We're all hanging out. It's like a little clubhouse, private clubhouse, just for you. And you can get the link to the new Discord channel in the show notes. So do that and check it out. And of course, you can subscribe to our other sister podcast. What's it called? Deck 78. Deck 78. You can only access these special episodes commercial free if you subscribe. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, the 4:30 movie feed, or in Glorious Trexperts via Spotify at TrexpertsPlus.com. So check that out today. And of course, if you don't feel like joining the discourse on Discord, you can join us on all your favorite social media channels at the 4:30 Movie Pod, 4:30 Movie Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, now known as X. But you know what I'm talking about when I say
still Twitter.
It's still Twitter.
Still Twitter.
Tweet.
You're always a Twitter to me.
What was that Jackson 5 song? Red Robin, right? Or something. Robin's tweet. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
I'm dating myself.
Well, somebody has to.
Oh, my God. On that note, it's been a pleasure. I've been spending this last hour with most of you. Named Steve Melching and Darren Dochterman. Less so with you, Ashley Miller.
Oh.
But I want to thank everyone for joining us once again. We'll be back with an all-new episode of the 4:30 movie next week, but then we'll be taking a brief hiatus, but the season is not over. The season is not over.
Not over yet.
We'll be taking a couple of weeks off while we're traveling, but then we'll be back to finish off the 7th season. But this is a chance to catch up on any of the episodes you might have missed while we're gone. So on behalf of myself, Mark Altman, Ashley Edward Miller, Darren Dochterman, and Stephen Melching, Eyewitness News starts now.
Hey, it's me, Todd Stashwick. You know me as Captain Liam Shaw of the Starship Titan, but I am coming at you as a dungeon master right now, and I want you to dig in on our new Prague Core Fantasy Dark Age of Fear Kickstarter project coming at the end of May. It is going to be an album, an animation, a book, so many things. If you're into dark fantasy and that late 70s, early 80s vibe, go to Prague Core Fantasy. That's PROGCORE.com. That's PROGCORE. Fantasy.com, ProgCoreFantasy.com, and sign up for some wonder, mystery, and danger.
Hey, Darren, there's this rumor going around that you got a new podcast.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's Trexperts adjacent. It's a fun thing. It's called The Weirded Beardos. Yeah, and before you react, it's Kirk Thatcher, our favorite punk on the bus, and myself, just talking about stuff.
But I hate him.
You don't hate him.
No, I'm kidding. I'm doing the song from Star Trek 4. I hate you, right?
Right. I hate you. I berate you.
Oh, yeah. But I don't berate him, and I don't hate him. And if he's involved with you, then I love you.
Well, thanks. And, it's basically just us talking about sort of all things related to our history of working in the industry. Together we have like 78 years of experience working in the entertainment biz.
I'm going to have to listen to that. I thought it was about maintaining your beards or something.
It has nothing to do with beards, actually, which is kind of funny. But it's fun. We basically hang out for an hour every other week. So come and join us. Look for the Weirded Beardos on Spotify if you just want to hear the audio. And we're actually on YouTube as well, the Weirded Beardos.
Great. Can't wait to check it out.
Thanks.
First start of the right and straight on till morning.